Hello you guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Erin, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. I do all things beauty, makeup, beauty, which includes makeup, reading, which includes all the books I'm reading, what I want to read, talking about books, and also movies. So I also do like movie reactions, movie reviews, or just talking about what I'm watching. And so for today's video, we're going to do my July wrap up. I didn't read that much in July actually, and most of them were either audio or digital. So we're going to go through this very quickly. This will be a shorter book because I really did not get through much of my TBR for this month. I really kind of went off my TBR, and then I really didn't read that much. So anyways, the first thing that I read and finished, okay, the first two that I read, I think I read these pretty much similarly. So one book that was I had a few books that I was trying to finish from June, but then these two I just kind of read randomly. So they were a part of the Ice Planet Barbarian series by Ruby Dixon. I read the first two books, which they were entertaining, but I probably won't finish the rest of the series for reasons. But I did read those two. And then the other romance book that I was reading on Kindle that I actually was trying to finish from June was Bound to the Dark Elf King of Fate and Kings. And all of the romances I read this month were fantasy romances. So Bound to the Dark Elf King of Fate and Kings by Jessica Grayson. This one was probably my favorite for this month, so I'll go into a bit more detail about this one. This one we're following Varys, which is this dark elf king, and he's supposed to be like having this reputation. It's like this lethal warrior, and we're also following the main female protagonist, who is, I forgot her name. I'm looking at it, but basically she's like his fated love, and so when they meet, they're kind of like enemies. Their families and kingdoms are enemies, but they ended up having an like arranged marriage, or like a marriage of, not convenience, but a marriage, a political marriage. And so, but the dark elf king, or the elf king, actually asked for her hand in marriage as sort of like a political ploy, but also he really just wants to be married to her because he recognizes her as the one that he's fated to be with. And so then we come through with this romance that they start to build on, and basically how they fall in love from these circumstances. And it was nice. It's like definitely like fantasy romance. Enjoyment was, I would say, like a 4 star overall. 4 stars, which would be like a B for me. Definitely think it could have been a little bit more, maybe action or more to the story, and it feels like there was a lot that was kind of left for later books, which I see that this is also a continuous series. So yeah, there's that. I gave this one 4 stars, and I finished it July 17th. So the first two books I read, I kind of read them like back to back, and I finished those like the 13th, 14th of July. So as you can see, I didn't really read much like the first part of the month. And I was reading my next book, but it was going very slowly. So my next book I finished on July 26th was Mistborn. So literally like a few days ago. I read majority of it. I would say I read a lot of it physically, but I read majority, especially like the last chunk, like all of this. So you see my bookmark is still in here. This whole last part I read audio, and I did read a lot of it physically though. The reason why I was just moving through it a little bit slower, so I decided to go ahead and finish it up on the audiobook. And you know what? Yes, that's what it was. I was reading all of it physically, and I hadn't got the audiobook actually. But then I was just going really slower in this one compared to the first book, which I read all physically, and I own it as well. And so I decided to go ahead and get the audiobook, and that's why I finished the rest of the audiobook. So I did read most of it physically. This has just been a few days ago, and I'm already forgetting. I did read most of it physically, but then it was taking too long, and I really wanted to finish it. So I was like, let me get the audiobook. Got it off Audible because I had a few credits, and I finished the rest on audiobook. So really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 5 stars on Goodreads, but I would say maybe a 4.5, just because I feel like this one is good, really, really good, solid middle part of the series, but definitely, I think that the first one is still my favorite of this, and this is part of the Mistborn series. So the first one, Hero of Ages, and then this one, The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. And I really did enjoy this book. I feel like it was a lot of action going on. We got a lot more built up from the first book, but I still think the first one with that kind of heist feel to it is still my favorite. This one, we're kind of more getting into a lot more political stuff, which I also really enjoyed, but um, it's more, a little bit more like that middle book kind of period. Like it's like we're building up to a lot of stuff and also explaining a lot of stuff in the first book, so it's got that middle book kind of syndrome. So like explaining stuff for the first one, kind of getting some of the mysteries solved from the first book, which I really enjoyed, but also building up to the third book, which I can tell is going to be really, really good because the ending of this was amazing, so good. I'm very excited to finish this series, and I'm hoping to finish this trilogy, the first trilogy, this year, because I know there's like there's like a spin-off, or there's still more books to this universe, the Mistborn, but it's like set in like the future or something. So I'm hoping to just finish the first three of the first trilogy this year, and so I'll be reading the third book not next month. I'm gonna take a break like I did in between the first book and this one, but definitely probably like in September or October I will do the next one, or maybe even November. I might do it in November. We'll see how it goes, but I really did enjoy this. I gave it a 4.5, like I said. And then the last book I finished this month, literally finished it yesterday, is Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. And I read this one as an audiobook on Scribd. It is a horror um, mystery type of book. And we're following this woman who is like a space pilot, or like a space, yeah, like a space leader. And she works in space and she's like transporting things, or like, I don't know. And she ends up with her crew finding this abandoned space ship that's also was supposed to be like a like, think of like Titanic, but like in space. It was supposed to be like that type of experience where like the rich and the famous were going out into space to live this luxurious adventure trip. And what ended up happening was the ship went missing and no one ever knew what happened to it, and her and her crew ended up finding this ship, and they want to basically like go pirate it and bring back evidence that they found it so that they can get money, because the woman, the main protagonist, she wants to continue working in space, but she's about to be kind of put in a desk job, and so she doesn't want to do that. And she also is living with a lot of trauma as well, and so that plays a lot into what we're seeing, because she's also having some like, am I kind of like losing it type of thoughts, and she kind of sees things, paranormal like stuff happening. And so we get into all of this happening on the ship. I really want to go into more detail, but I don't want to spoil it. But basically, a lot of creepy, horrific stuff happens on this abandoned ship with her crew. And while I really enjoyed this one along the way, and I did, enjoy it, I have to say it kind of wasn't what I was expecting at the end, the explanation. And although it was like a really creepy atmosphere and all of that, the overall like explanation really didn't do it for me, and a bit flat for me at the end. Like it fell a bit flat for me at the end. It wasn't what I was expecting, and some of the characters also kind of a little bit stereotypical in a sense. But at the same time, I really liked what the author did, how she built up, or he or she, I don't know if it's how they built up the scare factor and what they were going along with. It's just that the explanation for the scares I didn't care for as much. But yeah, it was pretty good. I gave it 3 stars. So not like the best thing I've ever read, not the worst. It's kind of really in the middle. It really definitely could have been a 4 stars if that ending had been more what I would have liked. So it was good, just not my favorite. So that being said, I read 5 books. So let's go into some stats. 5 books this month, very much down for what I usually do. I usually read 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 books, and so far my best month has been January. I read 16 books. It's just been really a lot busier and I don't have much time to read, which is okay. I think 5 books is fine. Some people would say that this was a great reading month. Some people say it was a slower one. For me, it's just absolutely, it's a little bit slower. But how many days I read in July, I'm not sure. I know I did listen to Dead Silence for several days in a row on the audiobook. It was pretty fairly shortish book to listen to. Um, and then and I did listen to it at 2 times speed. For me, that works. 2 times speed is actually the perfect speed for me for most books. Well of Ascension, I was reading like all month, so it took me a while to finish that one. It's a big book. It's like 700 something pages, but I did not read every day. Like I was like, I would say even like weeks, not weeks, but like a whole week would go by and I hadn't read but like a few pages or something like that. I really need to try to get back into the habit of setting some time aside, but I also don't want to set too much time aside because I have other things I'm trying to do right now that are a little bit more important. And then yeah, so I didn't read that as much. I would say maybe out of this whole month, I maybe read, and I'm a pretty quick reader. I would say I maybe read half the days of this month, like 15 days in total, if I had to guess. And then, like I said, a lot of these were digital. I did mostly digital, so ebook, 3 ebooks, and then one audiobook, and then one I did half and half, physical, half for this one, and then half audio. So um, mostly ebooks this month. And I do think my ebook amount will be the highest this year because of January. I read so many books on my Kindle, and yeah, it was like the majority. And then I read some physical. I think physical will probably be my next biggest. I have read a lot of audiobooks this year though as well. We'll see at the end of the year. It's just July. I need to calm down. Yeah, but that's pretty much it, you guys. It wasn't that much to do. I don't want to make this video longer than it has to be. Like, nothing else to say. I did enjoy this reading month, but I also did not get to a lot of things that I wanted to read. And I think for the next month, I'm really going to focus on some of the books I didn't read this month, but also I'm going to try to maybe do like a little challenge for myself or like a little vlog maybe or something. And I think I have a couple ideas in mind, but I will let you guys know in my TBR video what I'm going to read for August. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I will check you out in the next video very, very soon. Stay safe. Adios.